Evening, everybody. Dan here. And we are a few hours away from a new episode of WandaVision dropping, probably specifically less than 5 hours. And there's a good chance tonight we're going to find out one of the mysteries. Now, we could find out all the mysteries. We could get a whole new batch of mysteries to play with. But the one specific one I wanted to address before the episode aired has to do with the engineer that Monica has texted and is off to go meet when Vision tried to break out and Wanda expanded the bubble. So if you are not caught up on the show, first thing, why are you clicking on shows like this? But the spoilers ahead. Probably should have said that a minute ago, but spoilers ahead, so be careful. All right. Oh, Andrew's already throwing out that Michael Fassbender is going to be the person who's going to help. So he's thinking it's going to be Magneto already, and Magneto's going to be the engineer. I never thought of Magneto as an engineer. Does he have an engineer background? That's a good question. All right, so let's go into this. Let me bring up my other screen here. There we go. So this, of course, is Monica. And her and Jimmy Woo are headed off to meet the engineer when Wanda freaks out because Vision's falling apart and expands the hex. Now, I think we will find out who the engineer is because that's who she was going to meet. But they might do a completely different thing. We thought episode 4 was going to continue the story, and instead we retraced the entire thing. And that was the start of Act 2, and we're going into the start of Act 3. So you never know what we're going to get tonight. But I think it's pretty safe to assume we're going to figure out at least who the engineer is going to be. Don't have Disney Plus, just like to hear your words. Well, thank you, Christian. That's very nice of you. So we're going to start with, there's some possibilities. Some are more outlandish than others. Some of these are the ones that the internet is big on. I have a personal favorite that I'm going to throw in there, but let's run through these. I'm going to do a little slideshow action here. That's why I've got this up. Now, I'm going to start with a Skrull. This would be the simplest answer because it reestablishes Skrulls in the Marvel Universe. We haven't seen them much since the end of Spider-Man Far From Home, which takes place after WandaVision, or from Captain Marvel. So we know that Monica grew up, well, at least it looked like she grew up with a friend who was a Skrull. She had the one she met at the end of Captain Marvel when she was a little girl. So it would make sense if her friend turned into an engineer, but there is the gender question. After the first time she mentioned it, everybody assumed it was going to be a female because of the way the Spanish was translated. But it turns out in this last episode, she referred to going to meet her guy. Now, I've heard a few people say, well, guy can be gender neutral. I'm not used to guy being gender neutral. I've collectively, like, hey, you guys, I've seen that, but never specifically to a single individual. But I could be wrong. I'm not, the most hip and caught up person when it comes to vernacular. But I think a Skrull is a good possibility. I'd have to put this definitely in the top 5 that we're just going to get a Skrull, maybe one of the Skrulls from the ship, maybe Talos. We don't know exactly what his specialty is. So that would be an interesting one to bring back in. That, and also Ben Mendelsohn, who plays Talos, is going to be in the Secret Invasion series. So he's obviously good with being on the Disney Plus TV shows. So I wouldn't throw out Talos or a Skrull of any kind. So that would be an interesting one. I don't know if it would be the land-breaking guest appearance that people have been talking about, but I think it's a good possibility. I would put this in the good possibility. Moving on to number 2, Leopold Fitzsimmons, or Fitz. There's a lot of great character. Love this character. The problem is that they haven't totally acknowledged that Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. is part of the MCU, which is weird because Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. was a spinoff of the MCU, and they had some clear connections, like Winter Soldier, when the Hydra thing turned out, S.H.I.E.L.D., that was affecting S.H.I.E.L.D., Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Also, Thor the Dark World, Sif guest appeared on it, Nick Fury guest appeared on it. So you would think that it would be completely canon. But we don't know. So where I think Leo or Fitz would be a perfect call in and would be a neat nod. And yeah, I don't know if the actor is doing anything else, but I think he would be a great call. I think the odds are less here. I think we got better odds on a Skrull than we do on Leo, because I think I think Fitz is part of I think they're keeping the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. separate, just like I don't think they're huge on bringing all of the Netflix stuff over. We may get trickles in of, Charlie Cox as Daredevil or Matt Murdock, maybe Jessica Ritter, Kristen Ritter as Jessica Jones. I don't know how much we're going to get. So would it completely surprise me? No, it wouldn't be out of left field, but I wouldn't put money on it. All right. Hank Pym. Would love to see Hank Pym. One of the original Avengers. He would definitely be the type of guy I would call, if I knew him, to build something like this. The guy is a genius. And he's alive, unlike Tony Stark. I don't have Tony Stark on this list because he's dead. So Hank Pym, I think, is a possibility. Again, I think it's a low possibility. Maybe I think Fitz would probably be a higher possibility than Hank, but I think Hank would definitely fit the bill, and it'd be a really cool cameo. Would it be Luke Skywalker level? No, but it'd be a cool cameo. So I think this is still possible. Again, wouldn't completely surprise me, but I don't think it's likely. Justin Hammer. Justin Hammer would fit the bill, but in the comics, he makes more sense. In the MCU, he's more of an adult, kind of a dweeb, kind of an idiot. And most of his tech doesn't seem to work right. Where in the comics, he is fearsome. He is dangerous, this version, the Sam Rockwell version, I don't know how he stays in business. I mean, did we see anything that he made work well? The ex-wife, the bunker buster, any of the specialty weapons he built? Not really. So in the MCU, could easily be a call, though I think he's in prison. Though we don't know where he is after the 5 years, because he maybe by the end of the 5-year blip, if he didn't get blipped, maybe he's out. Could be. So Justin Hammer's on the list. Quentin Beck. Here's a surprise one. Now, the interesting thing about Quentin Beck, I've heard some people talking about him, is at this point, he hasn't done anything. He's just an engineer that used to work for Stark Industries. He hasn't made a suit. He hasn't started working with Nick Fury. That's all after this. So could he get the call? Yes. Do I think it's him? No. I think he falls in the same category as Hank Pym. I think it'd be interesting. I don't think this is really his specialty. He created the barf system, so he's more visual, but he would be interesting. Another interesting one, I don't have him in the pictures here, would be the guy that helped him in Far From Home. The guy who originally played the little kid in A Christmas Story. The box of scraps guy. If you know the reference, you'll know who I'm talking about. He would be another one that would be interesting to bring in, just because they're in the MCU. But I don't think he would be a big enough deal for how long they've drawn this out. And I think Beck would be interesting, would be surprise. I just don't see it. And I don't see Jake Gyllenhaal just showing up for a few-minute cameo. So, okay. This is the one everybody wants. This is the one that everybody's like, oh, it's going to be Reed Richards. It's going to be Reed Richards. It's going to be the way they introduced the Fantastic Four. Oh, they talked about missing scientists. Those got to be the Fantastic Four. I don't think they're going to introduce the Fantastic Four in the 7th episode of a Disney Plus series. Fantastic Four are going to be big. They're going to get their own movie. If they're introduced anywhere, it'll be hinted at. It'll be teased. I don't think he's just going to show up and, look, I built a truck for you. I don't see it. And they haven't even cast yet. I know everybody online wants John Krasinski. And you know what? I want John Krasinski and Emily Blunt. I think they're perfect casting. I think it would be great to see them. I put this really, really low on the list. I just can't see it. But I had to put him on the list because he is a possible. He would fit the bill. And he would, and especially if it's John Krasinski, it would be that kind of surprise that people have been talking about. It would break the internet in a lot of ways. I don't see it. All right. I think we got 2 left. Let's see. This is my number 1. This is the guy I think she called or texted. This is Adam Brashear, the Blue Marvel. He's a Marvel Comics character that they have had the rights to for a long time, created by Kevin Graveau, the guy who created the Underworld series of movies. And he is an engineer. He is associated with Monica in the comics. They're on a team together called the Ultimates. And he dates her in the comics. They were dating. This is pretty much straightforward, the type of character that she should be calling. This is someone she knows in the comics. This is, just down the line, this one makes a hell of a lot of sense. Now, I believe he's an electrical engineer in the comics, but that doesn't mean he can't be whatever kind of engineer they need at this point. Because, the MCU is different enough, they can do that. This is my gut. This is the one that I think it's going to be Adam Brashear. Plus, I like Kevin. I know Kevin Graveau, and I would love to see his character show up in the MCU. Even greater would be as they let him play him. But just that voice in the show would be awesome. But that's my thought there, is that this is my number 1. I think it would be him. I think a Skrull would be number 2, and the rest would kind of filter in between. But I got one more long shot. The one just absolutely silly, but someone who would be absolutely up for billing something like this, and it would be a fun cameo, and it would be an easy cameo because you don't actually have an actor to bring on stage or onto the set. You just get a voiceover later on, which they can do from their home if they've got a quiet studio. And of course, that is Rocket Raccoon. How cool would it be to see Rocket show up, kind of tie the shows together? He's on Earth. Or I guess he left Earth at the end of they leave Earth. See, that's the thing with Endgame. We don't know how long everything is after Endgame. We see the Guardians and Thor leaving Earth. Is that the next day after Endgame? After they bring everybody back? Is it a week later? Is it a month later? Do they stick around to help clean things up and then they take off? Because that's another question I have about the Mind Stone. When did Cap take it back? Did he take it back immediately? Is it a week later? Is it a month later? How soon did he jump on that platform and start, taking the stones back? Was there a chance for Wanda to get in there and steal the Mind Stone before he left? Swap it out, because he's not picking them up and moving them. And the Mind Stone's one of the few ones that if they take out of the timeline, it's not going to be that big a difference, because the Mind Stone is used by Loki, and but if you take it out from where they got it, then the Pietro and Wanda wouldn't get their powers. But again, the way it works, you don't change the timeline you're in, you change an alternate timeline. So if she steals the Mind Stone, it creates an alternate universe, and maybe that's the multiverse of madness getting created by the fact that she stole the Mind Stone. I'm just totally bringing this up now off the top of my head. But if she stole the Mind Stone to bring Vision back, then she'd be creating a new parallel or universe or multiverse by removing it. They already got one with Loki taking the Tesseract. If they don't return the Mind Stone because Wanda stole it, and Cap's not going to be testing them to make sure they're real, he's going to assume they're real. Could be. So again, we don't know exactly how long it takes for them to get this stuff put back. How long before Thor takes off. So maybe Rocket's still on Earth. Maybe Rocket's the one that built the ship, and somehow Monica got a good connection to him. Because no. Again, as I'm thinking this one out, this is probably the least likely because, well, no, I think Reed Richards is the least likely because I don't think he shows up until after the snap and she's already gone. So she wouldn't really have a friendship unless she just met him, and that's a long one. But anyway, that's the list. So Rocket, again, this is who I think it's going to be. I think it's going to be Adam Brashear. It's the one that makes the most sense for the story, for the character. It's someone she's supposed to know. Her guy is a very affectionate term in a sense. That's my guy, So I could see it being somebody she used to date. Yeah. So that's my guess right there. It's plus going if he goes with her into the barrier, maybe that's where he gets his powers from. Who knows? But this is who I think it is. I think all the other ones are possible. Would not totally surprise me if it was somebody else. If it was Hank Pym, if it was Justin Hammer, if it was a Skrull. All those make perfect sense. This is the one I think makes the most sense to the characters in the universe. So there it is. I'd love to hear what you guys think. If you're not on right now, please make your comments below. I've heard some more outlandish ones. I've heard Doctor Doom. I've heard, Andrew thinks it's going to be Magneto, but it could be Hank McCoy is somebody else has been talking about, If it's Bashir, who got cast? That's what Christian just asked. And it's a great question. The problem is it's not a high-profile character, so it doesn't necessarily need to be a high-profile actor. The first name that comes to my mind is Aldous Hodge from Leverage, who I think is just brilliant. I think he's a great actor. That's the first one that comes to mind for me. I think Aldous Hodge would be a great addition, but I know they're doing a Leverage reboot, so if they're going to use him quite a bit, I don't know if he'd be the right guy. There's so many good actors that could fit the character. But yeah, I'm going to go with Aldous Hodge just off the top of my head. I'd have to think about it a little more. And I have to think about who the popular actors are right now that could be the character that haven't been pulled into some of these universes. Marvel could totally mess with DC and cast Ray Fisher. That would be an interesting choice. Trying to think who else could work. Trying to think of who are available, because I think about current TV shows and then, if they're currently on a TV show, they're probably not the one. But so I'd like to hear what you guys think as well. If it is Adam Brashear, who do you think should be him? But otherwise, who do you think is the engineer? So drop me a comment down below. And otherwise, I am going to sign off and looking forward to the episode tonight. And I will be on tomorrow morning with my review. So you all have a good night and we'll be talking soon. Evening.